What's up, Bears fans? Welcome to Chicago Bears Now. I am your host, Harrison Graham. Got a little holiday weekend here, but still going to be able to hit you guys with daily videos here, so go ahead and subscribe. And especially when news drops, we're going to have you covered. And there is some pretty notable news here midday on a Friday as Ted Phillips, longtime CEO and president of the Bears, has decided to retire. Now, it won't take place immediately. Next February, so after this upcoming season, he will step down as the team's CEO and president. A lot of quotes I want to get to here, want to react as well, so stick with us here. Before I read any of the quotes, just give me your initial reaction. One word or a couple of words. What is your reaction to Ted Phillips retiring? If I had to give one word, maybe finally. He's been with the team for 40 years. Some good things, some not so good. I know there's a lot of opinions out there on Ted. So give me your one-word reaction or a couple of words on Ted Phillips deciding to walk away. All right, here was a quote from him on deciding to retire. He says, "When COVID came, it changed a lot of dynamics and gave me some time to reflect on my life, my work life. Came to the conclusion that, my gosh, almost 40 years is a long time. It's time to hand over the baton and give myself the gift of time. You know how this business can be, a lot of hours and time away from my family. Just turned 65 years old. I feel good. My health is good. It was time to slow down and go and do whatever I want to do." And he's absolutely right. If you do any job for almost 40 years, eventually you're probably going to say, you know what? It's time for me to move on. And, there was rumors after the Pace and Nagy firing that Ted Phillips would step down or potentially even be fired. George McCaskey shot those down, said Ted wasn't going anywhere when they did make those firings of Nagy and Pace. But one notable change that did happen, and Ted Phillips had a quote on this, was deciding that the new GM would report directly to George McCaskey. Here's what Ted had to say about that when they made that decision. He said, "The reality is the team wasn't a consistent winner. So I talked to George and I told him that we need to make some changes in terms of the reporting, and the decision was made to make a change." So Ted Phillips basically said, yeah, let's have the GM report to you now instead of me. And at the time, the Bears said his focus would go more to the Arlington Park project, which certainly has played a role. But I think part of that was because Ted Phillips was probably already thinking, hey, I think I might retire. I might walk away from this. So that was kind of the first clue. And, of course, the announcement coming today. Here's what George McCaskey, had to say on Ted Phillips. He said his humility, his intelligence, his consensus building, his steady hand, his refusal to get too high or too low. He's been an outstanding leader for the Bears. Peerless is the word that comes to mind. Listen, George McCaskey, with all his faults, obviously has placed a lot of trust in Ted Phillips over the years. I think the fan base has maybe exaggerated a bit how much Ted Phillips actually impacted the on-field stuff. I'm not saying he had no impact. I think the structure of the franchise over the years has been the bigger problem, because I've always argued, well, Ted Phillips is basically just the team accountant. And he's in charge of all these projects and yada, yada, yada. But on the flip side, there's never been that intermediary between the GM and the owner, between Ryan Pace and George McCaskey, Ryan Poles and George McCaskey. Ted Phillips was kind of that intermediary, so he has had to have some impact on how the product has turned out. But obviously, they made that structure change before these latest hirings of Eberflus and Poles. Here was an interesting write-up from Bears.com in terms of the greatest accomplishment from Ted Phillips. Phillips' greatest accomplishment in that role was orchestrating a deal for a renovated Soldier Field, which opened in 2003. Highlights include two 82 by 23 foot scoreboards, a 3-level club lounge, a Bears Ring of Honor throughout the mezzanine level, a Bears Den gallery depicting historical events from Soldier Field's past, and an open-air courtyard inside Gate Zero for an in-stadium tailgating experience. And I think, and Ted Phillips even said, that was his biggest accomplishment. What they were able to do with that 2003 renovation. Now, obviously, 20 years later, here we are, and there's major stadium concerns, and that's why the rumors of going to Arlington Heights have increased. But he certainly has overseen a lot of renovations. Hallis Hall has gone over or gone through a couple of them. 2019, him and Ryan Pace kind of made it a state-of-the-art facility earlier. I think about 10 years earlier, there was another renovation to Hallis Hall to make it a better facility as well. And now it's one of these state-of-the-art practice facilities in the National Football League. So certainly with those type of things, Ted Phillips has been an asset to the Bears. I just think the biggest problem fans have had is he just doesn't know football. And I think that's been the concern with George McCaskey too, is they're just not football guys. They're business guys. So, it is what it is. Now, Ted Phillips is still going to work on the Arlington Park project until he retires. More on that in a second. I want to know, are the Bears going to leave Soldier Field for Arlington Heights? Predict it for us. Type Y for yes, type in for no. I keep telling you guys it's going to happen, but let me know what you guys think. Y for yes, in for no. Are the Bears going to leave Chicago and Soldier Field for a new stadium in Arlington Heights? Now, the latest on that, there's been reports that there could be an announcement sometime soon. Now, in this athletic article from Dan Pompei, who broke the news of Phillips retiring, is that he's going to continue to work on that project. They want to officially close on the property before he retires in February, but obviously there's a lot of, there's some loose ends to tie up, etc. You don't buy a property worth hundreds of millions of dollars and it's just smooth sailing. There's a lot of things, checks and balances to go through, but the goal is to get that purchase finalized by then. And once that purchase is finalized, it's green light city. Like they're going to go up to Arlington Heights and make that happen. So I think you guys, like I said, I keep telling you, prepare yourself. This team is going to head there. There's already a meeting set up soon for kind of informal plans of the construction and what would need to happen to get a new stadium going, and stuff around the new facility as well. That's going to happen on September 8th, I believe, so a week from yesterday. So things are moving, and they're moving quickly. So be prepared to head out to the suburbs sometime in the next 10 years. Who knows how long it'll take once the green light hits in terms of actually building the new thing, but obviously it will take a few years, but I think things are starting to move pretty quickly. Ted Phillips in this Bears.com article talked about a few different things. Also, this athletic article, he said his biggest regret, winning football games is everything, and if I had one regret, it's that we haven't had a consistently winning team under my tenure. And I think that's where fans kind of grew tired of Ted Phillips and wanted to know how big his role was with the on-field product. And I don't know if we'll ever completely know how big of an impact he had in terms of winning and losing, but he's right. Outside of the Lovie Smith era, which was a pretty consistent winner for the most part, it's been all over the place. Mark Trestman, disaster. John Fox, not good. The inability to find a quarterback on this team has obviously been a big problem. Now, that's more on the GM's shoulders, but since Ted Phillips has been here, this team just hasn't been consistent enough for a franchise that is an original franchise that's in the city of Chicago. This is a team that should contend year in and year out. That should be the expectation. Obviously, even the best franchises don't contend every year, but that should be the goal. You shouldn't be Detroit thinking, well, I just hope we win 7 games this year. You know what I'm saying? Don Burr, I know you're watching. That's just reality of the situation. The Bears should have higher goals and expectations than that. And, hopefully with this new regime of Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus, the Bears get back to that. But it's been a while since it's been, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years of, going to the playoffs each and every year, having a chance, putting yourself in contention to hoist a Lombardi trophy. Hasn't happened since 1985, obviously. Close the Rex Grossman year, but has not happened since then. A couple other quotes here. Ted Phillips, kind of his final statement, says, "I'm so blessed. The McCaskey family has been so trusting of me. I feel like I'm part of their family. It's honestly been a dream come true to work with such a treasured franchise and a family with the most humble people you can imagine, but at the same time have a fierce desire to win football games. My career has been a joy every day." Virginia McCaskey released a statement, and there's kind of reports that, as she gets older, her health is not doing so great. So, prayers up to her and the McCaskey family. Hopefully everything's okay there. Obviously, she's getting up there. She said this: "He started out with us as a financial expert. Anything that he was ever asked to take care of, he came through and did it very well. We've been very blessed to have him." So the statement from Virginia McCaskey. The search has begun for Ted's replacement. George said the hope would be that person can really spearhead the Arlington Heights project from wherever it gets left off from Ted, but not necessarily would be the case. It depends on whoever replaces him, what his expertise is, in the role as team president moving forward. So we'll see if that person doesn't do that. It'll have to be someone else. But again, I do think a move to Arlington Heights is going to happen. How would you grade Ted Phillips, his tenure? A, B, C, D, or F? Again, I think it's tough to grade because we don't know completely how much he had an impact on the on-field product. I do think with some of the non-on-field stuff, he actually was probably a pretty good asset to this franchise. You don't work in a job for 40 years by accident. We mentioned the renovation stuff. And that's something George really said about the Soldier Field renovation, is that Ted was able to bring, a lot of different people, a lot of different folks with different political backgrounds, because, again, that's been the issue with Soldier Field for a long time, is it's not completely owned by the Bears. It's owned by the city, and the revenue is split. So you had to get a lot of different people in the same room, figure something out, something that worked for everyone, and they were able to do it. And that's impressive. That's impressive, because obviously in the last few years, as new renovations are needed, nothing has really materialized, which is why they're probably going to leave the city. So give me a grade: A, B, C, D, or F. Maybe I for incomplete, because we don't really have all of the information. All right, Ted Phillips stepping down. It'll take place in February. Search is underway to replace him. We'll see what happens there. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Stay tuned. More videos to come this holiday weekend. My frogs, they're playing tonight. If you want to support me, type TCU in the chat, baby. Heading up to Colorado to face the Buffaloes. Hopefully we get a dub tonight and start 1-0. If you want to support my boys, type TCU in the chat. All right, I'm signing off. Hit that sub button here on YouTube. More videos to come. You can follow me on social at HGramNFL, Twitter and Instagram. And we'll see you soon here on the channel. Bear down.